After completing the third installment in the Ratchet Clank franchise Up Your Arsenal, Insomniac wanted to deviate from the established formula and create a game with a darker tone. As inspiration, they used the Halo series, which was incredibly popular at the time. This meant an even larger emphasis on gunplay than Up Your Arsenal, and the art style and Ratchet's design were changed to accompany this change. Finally, in 2005, the game was released as Ratchet Deadlocked. To keep the tradition, Europe changed the title to Ratchet Gladiator. Unlike Up Your Arsenal, I never played Ratchet Deadlocked before, so this is my first time playing this game. I will first look at how this game's story holds up compared to the great story of Up Your Arsenal. After beating Dr. Nefarious in Up Your Arsenal, Ratchet, Clank and Big L are now crew members of the Starship Phoenix when they are informed by Sasha that heroes are disappearing. After learning about this, Ratchet, Clank and Big L are arrested by robots and taken to the so-called Shadow Sector. In this sector there are no laws, and this allowed Gleeman Vox to create the Dread Zone, which is a game show in which kidnapped contestants are forced to fight each other for the entertainment of others. After meeting Gleeman Vox, Ratchet is forced to take part in the Dread Zone as he is equipped with a deadlock collar that will explode if he refuses to cooperate or becomes boring in the eyes of Gleeman Vox. Big L creates two combat bots, Merc and Green, that fight alongside Ratchet to help him survive the Dread Zone. Meanwhile, Clank works from the sidelines as Ratchet's mission engineer. Given Ratchet's experience with using weapons, it isn't long before Ratchet has become the most popular contestant, despite Gleeman Vox trying everything in his power to put him in a bad light. This puts Ratchet directly up to the current star Ace Hartlight, a previous hero who gave in to the corruption of money and fame. Showing what it means to be a hero, Ratchet defeats Ace in a fight, after which Ace seems to have come to his senses and advises him to not let Gleeman Vox corrupt him. Seeing potential in Ratchet as the new superstar, Vox offers him the deal of a lifetime with all sorts of products and commercials. But as Ratchet is not interested in this lifestyle, he refuses. Of course, Vox doesn't accept this rejection and forces Ratchet to participate in an arena that was designed to be unbeatable. But even this challenge is not enough to stop Ratchet as he manages to beat it. Not to be outdone, Vox threatens to blow up the station, which will kill all planet inhabitants if Ratchet cannot deactivate the explosives in time. After destroying the station's power generators, Ratchet deactivates the explosives, unlocks escape shuttles and defeats Vox in a final confrontation. After his defeat, Vox activates the station's self-destruct sequence as he intends to take Ratchet down with him. But Big L comes in the nick of time with the last shuttle to rescue Ratchet before the place explodes. Clank removes Ratchet's deadlock collar, finally freeing him from Vox control. Not long after their escape, the station explodes, taking Vox down with it. After the credits, Dr. Nefarious and Lawrence make a brief return, though they are still trapped on the asteroid and can do little else than wait as the station they were approaching has exploded. Ratchet Deadlock's story actually took me by surprise, as I was expecting it to be just okay and nowhere near the quality of the original trilogy. But to my surprise, I liked it as much as the story of Up Your Arsenal, which was my favorite Ratchet Clank story before playing this game. Thus it's fair to say that I really like it. Gleeman Vox makes for the perfect villain, as he is a shark who will do anything to get more cash. A great addition to this are the commentators who constantly trash talk Ratchet to make the audience root for Ace Hartlight. And this motivates both Ratchet and you as the player to prove them wrong. Even though it's sad that Clank has become essentially obsolete, the new robot duo are great replacements, though they certainly don't recapture the great dynamic between Ratchet and Clank. But because Clank is not in the game's title, I am not as disappointed. The brief cameo of Lawrence and Nefarious is also great, even though they don't really do anything. And while we don't get to see him, we at least get an excuse for the absence of the plumber at the end of the credits. What's a great addition are the epilogues that tell you what happened with certain characters after the events of the game, which the developer certainly didn't have to include, so it's nice that they went the extra mile to include things like that in the game. The first thing you will notice when you start a new game is that you now have the option to select difficulty, which is a first for the series. And even after starting a new game, whenever you load the save file, you can change the difficulty. So if you picked one and found it too easy or challenging, you can change it, which is great. The benefit of playing on a higher difficulty is that you earn more balls. And in challenge mode, I decided to try out the hardest difficulty setting, Exterminator, which was certainly no cakewalk, but also not impossible, though it can be frustrating at times as you often die in one hit. But if you're up for the challenge, I'd say go for it. Once you take control of Ratchet, it becomes apparent that Insomniac has perfected the gunplay action of Ratchet and Clank games, and it plays just as great as Up Your Arsenal. Though my only complaint will be that Ratchet feels heavier while jumping, making it a bit harder to make long jumps compared to previous Ratchet and Clank games. But since there is hardly any platforming in this game, it isn't a huge issue. It's great that you can now order your robots to do all tasks, thus you can focus on shooting down enemies if you don't want to do it yourself. This time the weapon selection is smaller, only including a total of 10 weapons. However, these weapons differ greatly, thus no weapon feels the same. And now all weapons can be leveled up to level level 99, further emphasizing the larger focus on gunplay in Ratchet Deadlocked. When leveling up your weapon you see the increase in power, making leveling up even more rewarding, and once you reach level 10 the weapon unlocks another ability or transforms, and at this point you can buy the mega version to level it up to 99, which sounds like it might take longer, but from level 10 onward leveling up goes really quickly. The weapon selection consists of the grenade launching B6 Obliterator, dual Vipers which are a pair of submachine guns, the fusion rifle which is a long range sniper rifle, the holoshield launcher which deploys shields that protect you against incoming gunfire. This is easily my least favorite weapon as I found it completely useless, and as a result it's the only weapon that I didn't upgrade to level 10 or beyond. The Hunter Mine launcher is much more useful as it fires mines that seek out nearby enemies. The Magma Cannon is this game's shotgun that unfortunately feels extremely weak, especially when compared with the shotguns of its predecessors. The mini turret launcher deploys turrets that help you fight off incoming enemies. The Scorpion Flail is easily my favorite new addition as you get to slam it on the ground and destroy everything in your surroundings, making it very fun to use. The Arbiter is your standard rocket launcher that's useful to deal with the stronger enemy types and is the only weapon that I managed to level up to level 99. And finally the Harbinger, which is this game's version of the Rhino, and while at first I didn't find it all that useful, after leveling it up a bit it became extremely effective in dealing with large groups of enemies. To further modify these weapons you can use alpha mods which can increase the rate of fire, ammo capacity or improve targeting assist. And for more drastic changes you can purchase omega mods that enhance a weapon's impact effect. This includes the acid mod which damages hit enemies over time, the napalm mod releases large amounts of lava, the shock mod which electrifies hit enemies as well as nearby enemies, the freeze mod freezes enemies, the mini bomb mod releases small bouncing bombs similar to the bouncer, the morph mod changes enemies into animals, the brainwash mod causes hit enemies to attack each other, and finally the time bomb mod increases the damage and explosive impact of the weapon. While they were absent in Up Your Arsenal, the grind rail sections make a return in Deadlocked, and what's great is that you can now also use your weapons, allowing you to fire your guns while grinding on the rails, which looks really cool and adds some gameplay variety. To be able to afford all these weapons and their mega versions, you can earn extra bolts by completing skill points, which you get by doing specific things like killing a certain number of enemies within a specific time limit or killing enemies without taking damage. There are also challenges that seem optional but are actually necessary to progress the story, as you need a certain number of dread points that you only get by completing these challenges. And even though I did all the challenges before fighting Ace Heartlight, I still didn't have enough dread points to get to Ghost Station, which was quite annoying. But since the game is so much fun to play, it wasn't a huge breaking point.
These guys obviously don't know who they're messing with.
The planets you visit vary just enough so that the environments never become boring to move across. The exploration is now completely gone, but since that's not the focus of this game, it didn't bother me. To break up the gunfights there are also vehicle sections, where you need to race in a Dreadzone dropship, ride around in the Puma to kill enemies and reach objectives, and move around in the slow Landstalker to kill everything in sight. While these sections are great for a first playthrough, on subsequent playthroughs they can drag on, as I'd rather spend that time leveling up my weapons, though it is still nice that you level up your health in these sections. On some planets you will also encounter a boss that serve as a nice extra challenge, though they are nothing to cry home about, and I find it weird that you fight the first boss multiple times while you only fight later bosses a single time, which seems like a missed opportunity, as fighting a boss multiple times on a planet makes it much more engaging and feels like a real challenge. After beating the game you can do it all over again in challenge mode as usual, and thanks to the removal of hacking minigames this game is much more fun to replay compared to previous Ratchet Clank games, where those sections halted the pace, and at the moments where there were a lot of them I usually stopped my challenge mode run and started playing another game. The only thing I dislike is that in this game you still need to do the tutorial again when you start challenge mode, which just feels unnecessary and could have easily been removed. But other than that, this game is extremely fun to replay. What took me by surprise was the multiplayer mode, as I was expecting to dislike it, as I didn't find Up Your Arsenal's multiplayer interesting whatsoever. While the online servers are unsurprisingly down, the multiplayer is still a lot of fun via split screen multiplayer, and as player 2 in co-op you can even equip an outfit to look like Jack, which is a nice addition, though it's weird that only player 2 has this ability. So overall I find the multiplayer a great addition and a better fit than the multiplayer mode of Up Your Arsenal. The game's graphics are as great as Up Your Arsenal, though it does seem less colorful and more gritty to go with the more mature tone of the game. What is nice though is that you can change the HUD color to your liking, so if you don't like the default color palette you can always change it. Though I really like the red and black combination, so I kept the default HUD settings. Just like with the previous Ratchet Clank games, the soundtrack is again fantastic, sounding gritty to fit the more mature tone of the game.
Oops, one of his bots just went down. Oh, too bad, it was the cute one too.
I played through Ratchet Deadlocked in 2 play sessions, showing just how fun the game is to play, as I couldn't put the controller down thanks to the great gameplay. Of the PlayStation 2 Insomniac games, I would say that this one is the most underrated, as it is often overlooked by the more iconic original trilogy, which is a shame because this game is as fun to play, if not more fun to play than those games. So if you haven't played this game yet, I highly advise you to do so, as it is still fun to play all these years after its initial release.
I'm making you the new captain of the exterminators, the star of the show. Think of it. We'll make billions. We'll sell Ratchet action figures, Ratchet sports shoes, Ratchet deodorant, Ratchet breakfast cereal, earmuffs and cologne, soft drinks, hard drinks, energy drinks, breath mints. You get record deals, movie rights, reality shows, video games, and commercials.